Morning everybody. So this video today is on Macbeth and we are looking at what is Shakespeare's purpose, or it might be talked about as the writer's intention or the writer's message, and we are focusing specifically on the Eduqas exam board, so there is no context for us to discuss. So what do we mean when we talk about the writer's purpose? So your teachers might talk about it in terms of the writer's purpose, or they might say the writer's message or the writer's intention. All of those things mean the same thing, and they are essentially talking about the need for you to discuss the deeper meaning in a text, the deeper meaning that the writer is trying to show about society as a whole, about people, about the thoughts and feelings around all of the big issues in the society which they're living in. And it's your ability to discuss those that will help develop your essay writing, because you are taking a direct reference from what the writer has said. And of course, we're talking about Shakespeare and Macbeth. So what Shakespeare is saying in Macbeth, and linking that to some of his ideas about society and people. The challenge is that when there is no context involved, you are being forced to think about the deeper meaning about people in general, and that of course is open to interpretation. So one of the easiest things that you can do is learn some of the mainstream, most agreed upon intentions that we think Shakespeare had when he was writing Macbeth. So firstly, there are 7. Feel free to screenshot these or write them down as you're going. So here are the 7, and we're going to go through each of them with just a little bit more information for you, so you know the sorts of things that you can write about when you come across these in your planning as you want to get ready to write some practice answers. So firstly, the unchecked ambition is destructive. So we know that ambition is a key theme in the play, and this then, if you think about the theme, this is what Shakespeare is saying related to it. So Macbeth's unchecked ambition just drives him to murder and tyranny, and it ends up destroying his life. Lady Macbeth, and you could talk about how Lady Macbeth's ambition is to fulfill this role that she has as being his partner, because she's been unable to fulfill the role of a mother. So her desire to validate that role that she has results in the death of innocence and her own mental destruction. So the play as a whole shows that ambition, when it's not balanced by morality and reason, can lead to both personal and societal ruin. And that might be a sentence that would be really good to use in an essay if you were looking at the idea of ambition. All right, secondly, that power corrupts. Not a big surprise, and if you were given power, which I would really like to see come up this year, then we would be hoping that you would be writing about how the corrupting nature of power, and it shows that people who are, again, without that balance of morality and reason, they can lose themselves with the obsession of holding on to gaining and holding on to power. Thirdly, then, the consequences, the destructive consequences of guilt and conscience, and that is kind of linked to the actions that we've seen with the 2 previous ones. So Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are both haunted by the guilt that they feel as a result of the actions that they have done, and it highlights then that idea that guilt can eat away at a person, and that there are those things that are destructive that aren't necessarily external forces of destruction. Number 4, so fate and free will. And I have got a totally separate video, very short video, which will be maybe just about 3 or 4 minutes long, explaining what fate and free will are. So that whole idea that the witches predict Macbeth's future, but do they cause it? And that idea that in in the world as a whole, we have this idea of things being held in tension between what we consider to be fate or destiny, it was meant to happen, and things that are our own free choice that we make happen. And it raises the question of how much control we have over our own destinies and our own futures. Number 5, again, not a surprising intention that Shakespeare is wanting to write about, but the fact that there is this conflict between good and evil, and we have all sorts of traditional ideas both challenged and conformed to in the play. So we get traditional ideas that of good, like the king, if you understand the idea of the divine right of kings, and so then the king is God's chosen representative on earth, so they are good, except for Macbeth is not good. And then evil, traitors, and we have obviously the traditional idea of evil at the beginning of the play with the original traitors, but then we have the traitors at the end of the play, people like Macduff, who desert in order to save Scotland. So we have this challenging of what is good and what is evil, but at the same time we have true evil depicted in those very stereotypical ways, like the witches and Lady Macbeth. We see this disruption in nature as a result of good and evil. So good and evil not just being things that are internal aspects of somebody's personality or character, but also things that we see coming out. So that whole idea of moral disorder being something that we see both internally and externally. All right, appearances can be deceiving. Again, Shakespeare wanting to highlight that major theme that people are presenting one face, one facade to the world around them while hiding another. And then the message is warning against trusting what you see on the surface and not being naive and too trusting. All right, lastly then, the cost of betrayal and loyalty, and the play showing really that those that betray what they know to be true lose themselves in isolation and madness, and that sense that at this point in history Shakespeare is looking at the importance of being loyal to those things that you should be loyal to. James I. All right, and then because there isn't any context with Eduqas, I haven't included detailed understanding of the context around what was happening at this point in history, but they can you can use context links to help build your analysis, and so you would want to be linking some of these ideas to things that are happening in the play itself rather than kind of generalistically adding them in at the end of paragraphs. So you could have a look at these. These are some of the context links that you might make that you could think about linking to Shakespeare's purpose. All right, don't forget that video that I'm going to upload on fate and free will. That will be ready tomorrow.